Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Yo ho ho, party peeps. Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets. This is Karl Bryan coming at you, and I'm here with my good man Road Dog. Dog, how goes it, my man?
It's going well, my friend. I've got some questions for you today, and I kind of want to dive right in because the first question here, I'm not sure if they're talking about me, but I definitely fall into this category. So,
what is it?
Well, it's as if you sent this to me with me in mind, but so somebody wrote in and said they need a mindset hack for my client that is hyper negative, and the reason I say that is, as you and I both know, my brain tends to go negative before it goes positive. So this is kind of a great learning for me as well. But I know that a lot of coaches, deal with their clients that perhaps are a bit negative naturally and don't lean towards the positive. So I'm really curious what you have to say about working with a hyper negative client.
Okay, so, and to be clear, obviously, Road Dog, you and I know each other very well, right? Drank about 2,000 beers together. So I wouldn't put you in the hyper negative category. I'd put you in the, eternal pessimist, or I would say that you fall into like you're more of a pessimist, right? Where when I see something, just the reality. In fact, I remember when I was in grade 5, my grade 5 teacher, never forget this. In fact, I literally had a cup of tea with her about 2 months ago at my 30-year high school reunion. How's that one? But anyway, so in grade 5, she gave me an award for the most optimistic. And how I remember that, I got no idea because I can't remember what I did yesterday. But anyway, so I remember that, and we actually chatted about it. We had a little bit of a laugh. So if you gave a scenario, I can tell you that, as a foundation, and I most definitely am not perfect in this area, not even bloody close, but I go to optimism, right? Like, what could go right? What could this look like? Because I sometimes look at it, shoot, if it goes right, and we really put it on steroids, what are, two steps past this, what could go wrong? Where could a lack of resources screw us up, right? Because you do a marketing campaign, it works gangbusters. Well, there's some challenges there because if you take on 50 new clients in, literally a 30-day period of time, that sounds amazing. But if you let them down and you burn, like these people aren't going to have you coach them. Let's talk coaching. You're coaching them. You don't do a great job. It's not like they're going to give you a pass and then in 90 days you say, look, now I'm not quite so overwhelmed, so I'm really going to give you that TLC that you're looking for and the reason why you can't. You know what I mean? So I tend to think 3 steps forward, and with an optimistic outlook, I would put you in the pessimistic where, I think you go to, well, hang on a second, a little bit of stoicism where you're like, there's, you know what I mean? So hyper negative, man, is not what I call you. Let's put it that way. But anyways, I know you're coming from. Here's how I would answer that. For the coach that sent this in. So it's all state, right? So in fact, when we do our business coaching mastery, I pretty much start it with this, or it happens within the first hour every single time, and it will next year, and I'd be amazed if it doesn't the year after, where somebody says to me, hey, Karl, I want to build a 7-figure coaching business. Is it possible? I say, absolutely, but there's three things that you want to think about, right? Number one, and by the way, this is weight loss, this is anything, okay? But again, this is, make no mistake, a mindset hack is what's coming your way. So the first thing that somebody thinks about is strategy. Or in fact, if we use losing weight, it's an easier example for everybody to get their head around. Somebody who wants to lose weight will head to the internet and they will come up with a strategy, okay? Keto, I'm going to cut out whites, I'm going to cut out sugar, I'm going to go for a jog every morning. I'm going to start buying Jenny Craig. I'm going to follow whatever the heck Oprah tells me to do, whatever. They're going to come up with a strategy, okay? That's going to be their game plan, and this is where they're going to lose weight. Well, what happens to 95% of the folks that try to lose weight? It either doesn't happen or it does, and then they put the weight back on. Well, why? Okay, so one step further and significantly more important is the story. They got to change your story inside your head, or you're never going to get there. So someone who's overweight would be saying, I'm big boned. I've always been overweight. My parents are overweight. Just the way it is. Like they've got this cockeyed story that they just can't, they're just not going to be able to do it. So when it does happen, it's like, oh yeah, this is going to, I lost it this time. That happened 3 months ago, 6 months ago, last year, 2 years ago, and it all bloody came back, plus an extra 10 pounds. Thank you frigging very much, right? So there's the story. And it's like, okay, so if I correct the story and I have a good strategy, am I going to get there? And the answer is no. Here's what you got to do. The biggest, and quite frankly, the one that's completely ignored, nobody even thinks about it. By the way, this is shamelessly stolen straight from Tony Robbins' mouth. Okay. Number one, not by a little, not by a lot, but by a significant margin is state. Okay. What is the state? Like when you decide, why does somebody that gets diagnosed with lung cancer magically stop smoking? Okay. It's boom. The story changes. The strategy is insignificant. It's the state that they go in of, holy shit, I'm going to die, right? Like that changes. So the state that you're in, if you decide, like ultimately it's just a decision. Get into the state of mind that you are going to decide that is it. You're going to blow up the boats, and the strategy won't matter, right? Because again, could abolish like weight loss is a $75 billion industry, right? Could you give me a break? If you wanted to lose weight, stop eating whites, cut out sugar, go for a walk every day. Once you get to the walking point, get to a jog, and maybe go towards, running, but you don't even need to get there. Just move your damn body, cut out whites, and you will lose a ton of weight. So if you looked at it state, story, strategy, sorry, and I'd encourage you to write those down if you haven't heard them before, because I can't begin to tell you how powerful this is in every area of your life. What I do is the state is 95%, the story is 4%, and the strategy is 1%. Okay? Unfortunately, the 1% drive the entire other 99. Okay, so if you have a bad strategy, nothing's going to work anyways. But at the end of the day, do understand that it's not what you do, it's how you do it. It's like that's it. Like you lose weight. So I go back to my other example. I want to build a 7-figure coaching company. Well, my question is, what's the strategy? But what's the conversation in your head? And the way that you normally frame that question towards me would probably tell me a lot about your story. And it's probably not a good one, right? Like if it was asked in a doubtful way. But at the end of the day, it's a state, right? Like it's bloody deciding. So mindset hack. In fact, Road Dog, I might just take this one step further. I promised you today we were going to crank through this. But, okay, so then you go to me. Okay, so everybody write that down. State, story, strategy. Strategy is number 3, but that's the first thing and only thing 5% of the population normally do, right? That's why nobody loses weight. Nobody builds a 7-figure coaching business, or a very small percentage of the population, right? So therefore, if you went to state and you go, holy smokes, I got it. That was paradigm shifting. That was groundbreaking. You just changed my life. Like that was amazing. I'm going to adopt that. Help me do it at another level, like jack it up 7 levels from what I've now got. Here's what I would say. Now let's go to state and let's break that down into 3s as well. 3 words: focus, meaning, do. Okay. Every second, every minute, every hour, every day, every month, every quarter, every year, you are constantly making actually 3 decisions: what you're focusing on, what's the meaning you're associating to it, and then what are you going to do about it? So if you listen to Tony Robbins, he tells this story all the time, not by accident, by the way. Okay, he tells a story all the time where he was 11 years old. It was Thanksgiving. There was a knock on the door. It wasn't like they were going to starve to death, but most definitely a big turkey dinner was not on the cards. Like was not happening. Wasn't even a consideration. Well, there's a knock on the door. Tony Robbins at that stage, he wasn't 6'9". He was a short ass young kid. Knocks on the door, opens it up. There's a big guy there. He's like, oh my gosh. And he's got like a huge meal, and he's wearing dressed up like the delivery man. This day, Tony Robbins has no idea who it is. And Tony Robbins looks and goes, oh my gosh. Well, in that moment, okay, Tony Robbins focused on, wow, there's food, right? It's great. What's the meaning? Strangers care. What am I going to do? I'm going to pay this forward. And if you look at how many, families that Tony Robbins has fed to date, it's like in the hundreds of millions, right? Well, that exact same moment for his father, he focused on this is charity. No, he focused on I'm a loser. The meaning is, he focused on this is charity. What's the meaning? I'm a loser. What am I going to do? I'm going to leave. And he did. Tony Robbins never saw him again, right? So focus meaning do. What do you focus on? Are you focusing on the positive or the negative? Are you the optimist or the pessimist in the particular moment? Like when you have a phone call, like Road Dog, you were just talking earlier before we started this, like you've got, how many appointments do you have set up this week before like it's Monday? Like you haven't even started, right? How many appointments do you have lined up this week?
23.
Okay, 23, bang. The first two, neither of them might show up, right? And the question is, what are we going to focus on? What's the meaning? What are we going to do, right? Focus on, I knew it. What's the meaning? This is a waste of time. What am I going to do? I'm going to send them an abusive email, or I'm going to write a line right through this person's name, never contact them again. How dare they waste my time? Versus you could focus on, oh my gosh, I hope they're okay. What's the meaning? Something could have happened. What am I going to do? I'm going to reach out to them in a soft, kind way and say, hey, you missed that appointment. I hope everything is okay. I enjoyed speaking to you last week, and I hope that everything is good. Feel free to email me back if you want to get together. And by the way, if you've decided you're no longer interested, please feel free to dismiss this email and our appointment entirely. That'll be okay, right? Kaboom. Like that's the difference in the two. Focus, meaning do. And then, by the way, when the second appointment doesn't show up, and then the third one does, and the fourth and fifth don't show up, and I'm not suggesting that's going to happen, but I've had that happen again. Had hundreds of thousands of appointments, and you can imagine how many people don't show up, right? Focus, meaning do. So mindset hack for your coaching client who's described as hyper negative. And again, I don't, be careful with that label. Okay. I certainly wouldn't be telling my coaching client that they're hyper negative, because I think that, that ain't going to help anybody. Expressing to them that they're, not negative, but they're intelligent and strategic, would be, but we can improve upon this and then going into that. But state, story, strategy, focus, meaning do, kaboom. Those 6 words. And again, when we do our live event, we just finished one in Cancun, and we'll have another one next year, Business Coaching Mastery. Those signs, at the bottom of their workbook, literally those 6 words. And there's a line down the middle. There's state, story, strategy on the left at the bottom of every single page. And then there was focus, meaning do on the right-hand side. And that's why, right? So important. And remember, state, story, strategy, when somebody wants to lose weight, they want to build a coaching company, they want to stop smoking, whatever it is, they want to get their homework done and they're 16 years old, they go to strategy. Remember, when you decide, that's it. You know what I mean? Like, go to a place of, your frame of mind is just one of total and utter decision. Blow up the boats. That's it. Here's what I'm doing. And your strategy will almost be insignificant. You'll just bloody get it done. Right? So that's what I would say, my man, about somebody who feels they have a hyper negative client. And by the way, that's a client who's not, that question is designed for a client who's not bloody doing anything, right? This is a coaching relationship that's probably about to end if they've sent us in that question, right? So it's super duper important you really digest that. Those 6 words have changed my life, and they've got the capacity to change everybody listening, and more in particular, your coaching clients. So there you go, my brother.
Awesome. Speaking of maybe a relationship that's about to end, I got a question here from somebody that said, my client is wanting to become a part-time business coach. So that's not good.
Yeah.
But anyways, so he asked that. So they want to become a part-time business coach, still run his business. Okay, this actually would be an interesting one, because obviously, we train a lot of coaches. So how does that, can that even work?
Yes. So just, I want to make sure. So they've got the frame of the question is they have a coaching client, and the coaching client, let's assume it's they didn't say, I presume they didn't say industry or anything, did they?
No industry. Just said
let's assume it's a chiropractor or a dentist, and then they want to go into business coaching on the side, right?
Correct.
Okay, and do it part-time, but continue with their business. Okay, so no, it's probably not what this is gray on steroids. This is not black and white in any way, shape, or form, right? So here's what I would say. If it's shiny, like, you've got to ask some questions and work out where is this coming from. If it's shiny light syndrome, this is bad, very bad. And also, what is the current state of their existing business? If it's really built on a solid foundation, I think this could actually be a really great opportunity. If it's not, and it's, but a lot of business owners do, is they're not very good at what they do. They're not very good at selling what they do, more to the point. And then they, they take on more products and services thinking that's the problem, right? Like what they're selling, I got to sell more crap. And all of a sudden something's going to connect, like the dots, the T's are going to cross and the I's are going to all of a sudden dot and everything's going to make sense. Totally not the case, right? So I would ask some questions and work out if this is shiny light syndrome. If it is, this is not going to have a good ending. But here's where it can be a little bit of magic. Let's say that you were a successful chiropractor and then you thought, well, I want to do some coaching on part-time. Believe me, when people take on coaches, they're the kind of folks that would make good coaches, right? Like better example, when Tony Robbins puts 5,000 people in the room, there's 4,000 looking at him and going, I want to be him, okay? The guy sitting on the couch eating potato chips is the guy who really needs Tony Robbins, significantly more than the folks in there. So, you know what I mean? So believe me, this isn't probably as bad as what it might appear on the surface. So I've had the number of, this might blow some of the folks away, but the number of coaching clients that I have converted into coaches would blow your mind, like blow your mind. To the point where I used to literally have a systematic approach. And I'm not talking about 80% or 100%. I'm talking like 25% less than that, right? Like 13.5%, something like that. But that's a bloody lot, right? The coaching clients that step up and then become coaching clients. So if they're let's just go chiropractor for the sake of the example. So if you've got a chiropractor who's highly successful and then they go and not coach the butcher, baker, candlestick maker, start coaching other chiropractors, this can be magic, because when you coach and you teach, guess who learns the most? The person coaching and teaching all day long. Like the ultimate level of learning is teaching, right? So if the chiropractor went complementary to their existing business with a solid foundation, and they built let's call it a mastermind group of 10 chiropractors, them being one, and then 9 others, and they got together on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, even a monthly basis would be all right, but like say bi-weekly basis. And what they did is they shared ideas about what's working and what's not working, et cetera, et cetera. I want you to think of the guy who was running it as in a successful chiropractor that set it up. Do you know how much he will learn over the next 12 months listening to other chiropractors and them explaining what they're doing, what's working, what's not working, how they built in massage therapy downstairs, how they've, rented out, they got an office and they went from 5 offices to 5 rooms to 10 rooms, and how they filled 3 of the extra 5 with complementary services, and how they cross-sell them, et cetera, et cetera. Because you totally see how, like, what they would learn would blow your mind, right? And believe me, the guy doesn't know how to run a mastermind, okay? So because I think you started this, right, Road Dog, like talking about something that was going to end, right? I don't necessarily, obviously that could happen, but not necessarily. And again, this could be a scenario where this could be part of your coaching program where it's encouraging, your coaching clients to go and take on, like a little mastermind and head it up. The person who runs the show, right? Like, again, complementary example, but a little bit off in left field. Like if you owned a networking organization, like let's say you owned a BNI franchise, maybe this know that is business, a networking international, and it's like a networking group, right? Where everybody gets together on Monday. Well, the guy at the front of the room will get more, because what they do is they exchange referrals. Okay, that's the premise of BNI, is that I give you a referral, you give me one. That's the whole dynamic of the room. The person at the front of the room will get more referrals than the rest of the people in the room combined. Okay? Think about that. All right? And that's not science, by the way. This is art big time, but that's not far off. Okay? So the person running the mastermind is going to learn more and going to get more intel and more back-end information they could ever dream. And all of that data, good and bad, can be incredibly powerful for building his chiropractic clinic, including one of the members being perfect, like say not too far from him, a business that he could potentially buy, take over, move this guy aside and have, he could end up buying one of those. Again, that's a little bit out in left field possibly, but absolutely, but not necessarily. So that's what I'd say to that. So is it ideal? Probably not. Because again, how many is the chiropractic clinic in that example built on a solid foundation? And if it's not, then I would steer away from this. If it is, this could be a pretty good idea, and it could cement further, like at a higher level, the relationship, because I don't need to meet the chiropractor to know that he probably has no idea how to run the mastermind. And he's going to end up with some questions that are going to come in through the group that he could use a little bit of your help with. So that's what I'd say to that. And it's not as surprising as what it might seem. Again, coaching clients want to become coaches because, again, the people who buy coaching and show up to the webinars and show up to the live events are the types of folks that are, they're one of us, right? Like it's incredibly predictable. So the guy who doesn't show up is the guy who needs it a little bit more, but that's not the way it normally tends to go down. So that's what I'd say about the coaching client wanting to become a part-time coach, but not as surprising as it might seem.
So kind of along the same line, like really and truly in terms of the diversifying here. So somebody wrote in a question that they've got a client and they're actually thinking of investing into another business, right? Spending about $250 grand and they're going to get 10% of this other company. Like, would you have any advice for somebody in that position?
Yes. Do I ever? When you invest $250,000 for 10% of somebody else's company that you have no control, you own 10%, you have exactly zero control. What you're saying is that this guy is going to be able to make more money on your 250 grand than you are, right? And and that might be the case, and this might be a good decision, but I would be strongly advising. And again, if there was more information, we could give them significantly better answer. But yeah, when you decide to, hand money over to somebody else, you're pretty much saying to them, I think that, you can do a better job with this money than I can. And I don't think that that's that's not an ideal dynamic by any stretch of the imagination. So I'd be a little bit cautious. Also, like it was a podcast we did not too long ago, but you see, and again, most people normally, like they buy the wrong kinds of businesses, right? So like if you had a business that had 10 chairs, doesn't matter what it is, or 10 rooms or whatever, if it's a chiropractor, it's 10 rooms. If it's a hair salon, it's 10 chairs. Well, I want to buy the hair salon with 7 empty chairs, not the one with 10 full chairs, because now there's not the opportunity to grow, right? There's not a huge opportunity there. You're buying a solid foundation, but I almost categorically guarantee you're going to be overpaying. And then you're paying full boat close to, where the hell are you going to go, right? The reason you buy a business is to take it to the moon, right? And make a huge return on your investment. So a little bit outside the box, but yeah, I wouldn't want to, I wouldn't be advising that at a high level. You're like, it's almost like conceding, like, an election at some stage that, somebody makes a phone call. It's a little bit like making a phone call. So there would need to be a pretty significant opportunity. And again, if this is, Gary Vaynerchuk and a guy worth 10, 20, $30 million, I don't think that's the case. If this is a small business coaching client, right? And I just doubt that's the case, right? So the 250 grand, I'm going to guess it means something. And there's always that opportunity to light it on fire. Like, what do they say? Like the higher risk, higher reward. Like this goes down with some of the stupidest advice ever. Like higher risk, higher reward, right? Higher risk, higher chance you lose every cent of that 250 grand, right? Again, I'm, investing my money. I'm doing an advertising play. I'm, building software, whatever it is. I want there to be almost no risk, right? So, in fact, I might even go on this direction. So, like, obviously, we've got coaches, right? I got 700 coaches, 24 countries all over the world. Obviously, look, we're, speak to any of them and lots of them are listening. I mean, we're doing a pretty good job, right? So what I would invest, like, we build software that complements our existing offering, right? We already have 700 clients, like we have 700 clients. So we build programs and spend money on complementary services that bolt into their current offering that would advance them, right? So we spent a lot of money building like live event mastery, a program for putting, like bums in seats and small business seminars for business coaches. Spent a lot of money on that. That's launched. We got profit acceleration software. We've got the 2.0 version out now. Spent, you don't even want to know, right? Spent a fortune. But at the end of the day, we've got 700 coaches totally complementary, right? Like if we can't make that work, there's something wrong with us. So this is an example of where you spend your dough. So maybe the question needs to be like, that 250 grand, is it in a complementary business? And if it is, then you don't want 10% of it, right? You want significantly more than that. And he's, the way it was worded, this is obviously him investing in someone else's company. That's not what I was describing a minute ago. So that's what I would, that's something I'd be cautious of. On the surface, I would give it a big fat no, and then they'd have to convince me otherwise big time. But again, it depends on foundation, their financial situation. And when you invest in something, though, that you have no control over, you need to accept that you could light every dollar of that money on fire. So can you live with that downside risk is a question you have to ask yourself. And if you answer yes, and again, Tony Robbins could afford to lose 250 grand. Gary Vaynerchuk, 250 grand is not going to ruin his life, right? A lot of business owners, 250 grand is just significantly more than they can handle or stomach. So, then so the question, can they handle the downside risk? And if the answer is no, then the answer is no as their coach. And state, story, strategy, again, go there. Like, what are they looking at? Do you know what I mean? Like, the state, tends to go in the opposite direction with something like this. Like, oh my God, what if it's the next Facebook, right? Yeah, but again, what are the chances of that? Higher risk, higher reward, higher risk, better chance they lose every cent of that money. So brother, it's gray on steroids once again, but that's how I'd be answering that question right there, bud.
All right. And I know that we're a little pressed for time with you today, but I've got one, which this is a good one. We get this a lot. Because this is all to do with getting out in front of clients and closing them, right? So we got a message here from somebody. He's like, look, I'm managing to get in front of business owners, but really struggling to close them. Any advice?
Yeah. Any advice? Okay. Again, we get this, as you just said, right? It's not necessarily worded like this, but it's pretty much the same thing. Okay, here would be a question. Again, I'll answer maybe a little differently than I have in the past, but do you have a coach, right? Asking that directly back to the person who asked it. And, if you're not sold, you can't sell it, right? So, again, what is the old story? In fact, like Zig Ziglar, right? Like he could say he used to sell pots and pans, and then he could tell who was going to be successful with selling pots and pans by the people who signed up underneath them to sell them, and then who bought the pots and pans. So the ones who sacrificed and bought the pots and pans themselves would go on to be successful. And the ones that didn't make that sacrifice, they didn't. So again, if you're not sold, you can't sell it, right? So that's part of it. I think also you just got to completely buy into coaching. Like, I can't smell my own breath, right? I can't see myself shoot the puck when I'm playing hockey, right? I can see the result. I can see it go in the top hand corner, miss the net or hit the post, but I can't see my shot, right? So you've got to have coaches. Tiger Woods couldn't watch himself swing. LeBron James can't see himself shoot. Again, he just sees the result. So, how bought into this whole, like, I do believe that we have a lot of folks who have they've coached clients and then they haven't got the results, and they're thinking it's that coaching doesn't work. And the reality is that it's their coaching that doesn't work, right? Like, so, and what is the answer to that? And it comes back to a topic that I've talked about a lot. Like, Jim Carrey, the level of this man's acting, the fact that he could play the man on the moon and be Andy Kaufman. I remember he did that, and he literally did not exit the role for like 90 days while he was playing it. Like, he literally went home as Andy Kaufman. And then he does, Dumb and Dumber and Ace Ventura and all the rest, right? Like, his ability, like, you've got to train yourself at the absolute highest level, right? Like, a professional is someone who gets paid to practice. Look at it that way, right? So, again, and I could be completely out the left field. I could be completely wrong with a specific individual. They're just, amazing coach, and they just suck at sales, which is cool. But it's not cool, by the way, but this happens. But, if you believe, like, if two people get together, okay, and they have rapport and a sales dynamic, the one with the most belief, the one with the most certainty will win. Will either get the deal or not get the deal, right? So the client will either convince you that they don't want to do it, or you will convince the client to do it. If you've got rapport, because step one of any coaching or any selling relationship is building rapport, right? You can't just get straight into it. That's not an intelligent way to go about it. You've got to build some rapport. So you get in a room with somebody, that's what will happen. So if you're struggling to convert, do understand you've got to question your own conviction, your own ability to get these deals done. Here's actually a mentor of mine explained it this way, and I love it. Here's coaching in a nutshell. You are locked in a room, okay, and the code to the lock is written on the outside of the room. So you've got to get someone else to read you the code to get out, because there's no way that you are going to be able to work it out yourself. And the only way you could is by trial and error. And trial and error is an incredibly poor use of time as a rule. You're significantly better to do some homework and do some research and study a little bit. But you know what I mean? So think about coaching from that angle, right? So believe me, when a coaching client says yes to us, right? Like, so we're going to coach them. It's not like we say congratulations. We don't say thank you. Think of the different dynamic there. Like, believe you sign up with us. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, you're not doing us the favor. I mean, you are. You're entrusting in us, and we, believe me, would never take advantage of that, and we honor that trust at the highest level, as we most certainly do our absolute utmost to. But at the end of the day, you don't sign up and then like, wow, right? Like, you're doing us the favor. It's the exact opposite. The resources we have between the marketing turnkeys, $50,000 marketing systems in 125 different categories of business, live event mastery, profit acceleration software, the 2.0 version, the training on how to find any business owner $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. But that is literally a superpower. Some of the scripts that we have, some of the, what I call it, complementary. It's complimentary, but it's so like some of the interesting ways that we have to be able to get in the door by using like magazine positioning and saying, hey, look, I'm a part of this magazine. Do you want to do an interview, or do you want to chat about your business? And, if you know anything about the press and movies, and like if you were an anchor on TV and you want to interview somebody, all you need to do is send them an email, and you've got yourself an appointment with them. And on average, it doesn't matter how important this person is; they just love the idea of doing an interview. So anyway, so that's what I'd say to that one, man. Coaching is this person, then there's scaled pricing, which I've talked about in the past big time. But if you're a good coach and you suck at sales, just instead of dropping your fees, because like a good salesperson will sell coaching at $2,000 a month, and then a bad salesperson will sell coaching for $1,000 a month. Why? Because one person's a better salesperson than the other, right? But so the bad salesperson, you could scale your pricing from 500, 1,000, 1,500, and then $2,000, and you literally get a $24,000 coaching client for $500, right? Kaboom! Like, it's a total game changer. But instead, they're not thinking along those lines, and they feel like, again, they suck at the story in their head is that they suck at sales, so therefore they discount their coaching relationship instead of discounting the first couple of months of coaching. So anyways, so that's what I'd say to that, my man. You need to be sold in order.
Well, the funny thing is, Karl, you mentioned the scale pricing too. The one thing I'll say, because when you first introduced me to that concept, is we're all so rigid and stuck, and maybe you're in a situation where it's like, man, I need cash, right? But that's short-sighted. If you look at it and go, like, what's it going to take to get this done? So I remember coaching clients locally here where it was like, I really like these guys. They're a mortgage broker duo, just awesome dudes. And I chatted with them, and they're like, look, we want to, we're want to move forward with you, but we're, they're just like humming and hawing. I said, okay, like, what's it going to take? Like, what's it going to take to get this started? Because I know it's going to be awesome. So I started them at 250, 5, 750, 1,000, 1,250, 1,500. And guess what? I coached them for a year and a half. But if I wouldn't have started at 250, I would have never gotten them.
You would have screwed yourself out of $6. Like, if you went to 997, stopped, you would have screwed yourself out of $6,000 a year, right? So well, here's a very good. So this is relevant here. Remember, very smart people come up with good or great answers, but geniuses come up with great and outstanding questions. Okay, so what you just did, instead of sitting down with them, you said, "What's it going to take to get this deal done?" Right? Not thinking about how much money the question isn't how much money can I make in the next 90 days, which is a question, but just a really bad one. A really good question is, what's it going to take to get this deal done? Because I really know what's it going to take to get this deal done, because I know I can change these people's lives, right? So again, very smart people come up with great answers. Geniuses come up with great and outstanding questions. So I think that's incredibly powerful.
And what a great way to end this call, because I'm going to go ahead and take that you just called me like a genius. That's beautiful.
That's that just happened. Like, there we go.
You heard it here first, folks. This is it. It's going to be a great week.
The end.
All right, my friend.
All right, buddy.
Any parting words for everybody to get them going this week?
Yes, write down these 6 words if you haven't already. Commit them to memory at an absolute bloody minimum. State, story, strategy, focus, meaning, do. Totally got it. Whether you don't need to be the pessimist or the hyper negative individual to have those 6 words totally change your life. Just really adopt them. State, story, strategy. Remember, somebody wants to lose weight. They go to strategy and they don't even think of story and state. This is the reason why they don't lose the weight, or they lose a few pounds and then it comes back. So write those 6 words down, commit them to memory, and every day, every week, every month, every quarter, every year, slightly improve, right? Don't expect to just get it tomorrow and amazingly, like, your life changes. Like, it's like, what's the old metaphor where, okay, so we're in a plane and we're on our way to LA and we're in New York, and the pilot accidentally puts us 1 degree off course, right? Nobody notices. What happens when you get to the other side of the country? You're not in LA. You're like lucky to be in Arizona. You'd be going into the oceans, what you'd be doing, right? You'd be so far off course, it would blow your mind. Well, it works the opposite in a positive way. You don't feel small, incremental, positive change. Like, you just don't. But it's state, story, strategy, focus, meaning, do. 1% every day for 12 months. Literally blow your mind, folks. So those are the parting words, my man. So, Road Dog, appreciate you as always, dude. Great job, great questions. And folks, thank you so much for firing those questions in. And of course, if you're listening to this podcast, you do us a big, huge, humongous, monstrous favor. Give us a review and give us a rating in iTunes. Super duper appreciate it. That's how we're going to get this podcast out there. And if you know of anybody who needs to hear it, so an existing coach looking to take it to the next level, or you know somebody who would make a fantastic coach, like a motivational type, somebody who really loves Tony Robbins, or a good salespeople, they tend to make the transition into coaching easily. Fire this over to them and make sure that they listen to it. So appreciate you guys, and Road Dog, appreciate you. Appreciate everybody listening, and we will speak to you on the next podcast. See you later, folks.
Make it a great week, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at Focused.com.